Welcome back to The Explainer. I'm so thrilled you're joining me today because we're going to dive right into an absolutely powerful metaphor from a classic text. It's called the üçüncü söz, or the third word. It's honestly fascinating how a historical piece of writing maps so perfectly onto our modern everyday struggles. Things like distraction, procrastination, and just the sheer overwhelming choices we face all the time. We're going to break down this brilliant allegory to see exactly what it can teach us about the paths we choose.
Okay, let's dive into this with Section 1. Is easy always again? To really grasp this concept, we have to challenge a fundamental assumption we basically all make about human nature. I want you to just think about this for a second. Is everything that seems easy truly a gain? In our day-to-day lives, we're constantly hit with choices, right? And human instinct, well, it usually pushes us right toward that path of least resistance. But does taking that easy route actually benefit you in the long run? We so often confuse easy with good, or we think effortless automatically means profitable. The source material points out something really relatable here. It shows how incredibly easy it is to just put things off. Procrastinating tasks takes literal zero effort. It's completely effortless to give in to immediate cravings the absolute second you feel them. And yeah, it certainly feels easy to just reject all boundaries and rules. No limits, right? But the text asks us to hit pause and consider. Are these easy choices actually a net positive, or are they secretly draining us? To figure that out, we look at Section 2, the striking story of two soldiers. Let's explore the premise of this allegory, which represents two completely different approaches to a journey. Now, what's really interesting about this is the side-by-side contrast between these two soldiers. On the right, we have a soldier who chooses to carry a heavy backpack and a weapon. He's willingly taking on a physical burden and assuming clear responsibilities for the journey. But, and here's the kicker, the text notes that his heart is completely at ease. Then on the left, we have a soldier who decides, nope, I don't want to carry anything. No bag, no weapon, no rules. He feels incredibly light initially, but he's left himself entirely unprotected. That brings us to Section 3, the hidden cost of the left path. We really need to analyze what exactly happens to that second soldier, the one who chose to drop all his responsibilities. The source text defines this route as the left path. It represents a life of debauchery and idleness. But the really tricky part is that it's masquerading as absolute freedom. It pitches itself to the soldier as total liberation from rules, but actually, it's just a state of being completely aimless and untethered. And the consequences outlined in the text for this choice are, well, they're pretty severe. That short-lived initial comfort of carrying nothing, it vanishes fast. Since he has no weapon, he's completely unprotected from danger on the road. Without a backpack of supplies, he's basically forced to act as a beggar for every single need. This turns his so-called freedom into a nightmare where he is constantly afraid of everything. And ultimately, because he abandoned his duties, he's treated as a fleeing deserter. The whole illusion of freedom just totally crashes into dependence, fear, and regret.
Now, let's shift gears a bit to Section 4, the true freedom of the right path. We need to examine the ultimate result for the other soldier, the one carrying that heavy burden.
The text calls this route the right path. This path represents worship and piety. Does it require discipline? Absolutely. Carrying that bag and weapon is definitely not the easy choice. But by taking on those specific responsibilities, this path offers some profoundly clear direction. Because this soldier accepted the discipline of his gear, the payoff is huge. His heart remains entirely relaxed throughout the journey. Plus, having his own supplies means he owes nothing to anyone. The text calls this avoiding minnet, which is like a heavy sense of indebted obligation. He gets to walk with a completely peaceful conscience. He's totally unafraid of passing threats because he's armed and ready. And in the end, he receives the final reward of a dutiful soldier. So true independence and inner peace, they didn't come from dropping burdens. They came from picking up the right ones. Let's move to Section 5 and see how this builds a bridge directly into our modern world. How exactly does an old story about two soldiers apply to the daily lives of modern youth? The parallels the source draws here are honestly striking. The modern left path, that looks a whole lot like unlimited screen time, endlessly seeking instant gratification, endless procrastination, and basically just saying yes to every single desire. It feels super easy, just like carrying no backpack. But the modern right path, that involves real spiritual discipline. It's about establishing prayer, choosing careful friendships, observing halal boundaries, and practicing active self-control. It definitely requires effort, much like carrying that soldier's gear. So the crucial point is this brilliant psychological insight from the text. The left path absolutely shatters your attention, your will, and your heart. Taking the easy, unstructured route physically and mentally exhausts you. The right path, on the other hand, demands effort up front, sure, but it actually pulls you together. It centers you, protects you from modern distractions, and gives you a profound sense of inner stability.
What I really love about this source text is that it doesn't just leave us hanging with high-level philosophy. It leads us into our final section, a one-day small decision. It gives us a highly practical challenge.
Here's how you can actually apply this to your own life today. It's a simple 3-step daily challenge. Step 1, pick an easy but distracting habit. Maybe it's checking your phone the literal second you wake up. Step 2, firmly limit it for just one day. Set a hard boundary. Step 3, replace it with a small good deed or a brief act of worship. Just test it out for yourself and see if taking on a little bit of discipline actually makes you feel freer.
That brings us to this incredibly powerful summary quote from the text. True gain is not in what seems easy at first, but in the path that leaves the heart and life solid in the end. Really let that sink in. Short-term pleasure feels like a win today, for sure, but long-term peace and a solid life, that is the ultimate prize. So, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to consider as you go about the rest of your day. Looking at your own habits and your own backpack, with what small decision can your right path begin today? Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and I hope this perspective brings a bit more clarity and direction to your week.